Is that good? All right, there we go. I'd like to call the meeting to order tonight. It's good to be on Bainbridge Island. I'd like to thank Mayor Cole Medina for having us and for the entire island. Thank you for your hospitality. We're happy to be here. As we start off, and since we're on Bainbridge Island, I wanted to ask the question of what is your favorite thing to do on Bainbridge Island, or what is a favorite memory that you have had while on Bainbridge Island? So I will start. I will start. A favorite memory for me is we moved to Poulsbo in 2005, but before that, we lived in Chicago, we lived in New Hampshire, and we came out here from Chicago to visit my wife's family and came across on the ferry to Bainbridge, and she and I, while we were still dating, walked on Bainbridge Island, and we just thought this was the most beautiful place. And who knew that 11 years later we would get to move out here and enjoy that beauty. So that is a favorite memory for me. So maybe it's a place to eat, maybe it's something else that you like to do, but favorite thing about Bainbridge Island.
Okay, I'll go next. My family moved to Bremerton in 1942. And at that time, the only way you could get to Bainbridge Island was by ferry. So the ferry terminal in Bremerton took you over, I think it was on that side of the island, and dropped you off. So we had friends up here, so we were up here quite often in those days. And then when I was about 13 years old, I decided I wanted to pick strawberries on Bainbridge Island. So I would do my paper out in Bremerton and ride my bike to the ferry, get on the ferry, come up to Bainbridge Island, stay all night with our friends, get up in the morning, pick strawberries, and then get back on the ferry, do my paper out. I did that 5 days a week, so I'll never forget it.
Great story. Thank you, Bill.
Well, I seldom come to Bainbridge Island except to catch the ferry, but I do have a fond memory of, I guess it's still around here, the Bainbridge Island Winery, coming up and spending an afternoon. We had some out-of-town guests, my wife and I, and we had a lovely afternoon at the winery.
For me, it was discovering Kuzmi tea at the knitting store, which is where I drive up here to go to the knitting store to buy my tea from Paris. That's my favorite one.
Well, to be honest, I don't come to Bainbridge Island much. I live in Indianola, and I can see Bainbridge Island from my house. But the only time I ever came here, my daughter worked at Sawadi's all through high school. So I used to come over to go there to eat, but that was about it.
Thanks, Pat.
Well, for me, it was back when I was in the state legislature. You have a wonderful 4th of July, and we never missed one. Of the 8 years I was there, I had at least 3 years the 4th of July. And everywhere we enjoyed the 4th of July, and people were very friendly. Gradually, they voted more Democratic as well.
Thank you, Rick. We'll move on. Actually, Mike, do you have something you'd like to add in? Favorite memory from Bainbridge Island or favorite place to go?
Actually, I don't. I used to live in Shelton, and most of our traffic used to go through on the Fauntleroy ferry to West Seattle, where my grandmother lived. So we never took the Bainbridge ferry. But since I'd been up here, I'd been through Bainbridge a lot to get on the ferry, but I don't like that.
Brian, how about you?
Yeah, Brian lives here.
So I moved to Bainbridge Island in December of 1980 with my wife, who was 3 months pregnant at the time. So I have been here a pretty long time, and if I had to distill things down to one memory, it would be just what a wonderful place it's been to raise a family. Schools were great. All the activities that were available to my kids were great, and the community's been great. So.
Thank you very much. So thanks again for hosting us and having us here. We'll move on now to number 2 on our agenda, approval of minutes. Has everybody had time to read the minutes? And if so, can I have a motion to approve them?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Minutes are approved. We're moving on to number 3, public comment. Do we have a sheet? And if you're sitting in the crowd and you didn't know there was an opportunity for public comment and you would like to sign up, please come and do that. Just stand up and come to put your name on the sheet, and you have 3 minutes to share whatever you would like with the board. But once we start, last time we had extras that came in at the end, and I'd like to just have this be the sheet. So anybody else want their name on this? Come on up. Here you are. Thank you. While people are adding their names to the sign-up list, our first speaker tonight is Tom Goodland, and he is representing himself as a supporter of the Bainbridge Island Pool. Tom, if you'd come to the mic and just wait 1 second, just so everybody's not distracted while you're speaking. There you go. We have a system here that we can start when you begin, and I guess there are lights there right before you, and it will flash at 3 minutes.
So before I start, we're still signing in there. Nope.
We have 25 different people who would like to speak, and so you do the math for 3 minutes. So I just want to say, if you don't feel like you need to use your whole 3 minutes, that would be welcomed, you know? So whatever you want to share, but we will be cutting you off at 3 minutes.
Yes, since I just have 3 minutes, as I start here, if everyone in support of the pool would just stand up for a moment as I start, just so you get a visual on this. We've got a great support group on the island. Thank you very much. We saw the rankings of the projects last meeting, and you'll understand that we're disappointed with where the pool project fell in that. I just want to highlight in my comments the attributes of this proposal for the pool that meet your published criteria. In addition, you stated on your website a preference for projects in either South Kitsap or Bainbridge Island. And South Kitsap has the Port Orchard that's ranked number 1. And there were mentions by many of you when you described your rankings about that preference, but there was no mention of the preference for Bainbridge Island. So just reminding you of that. So there's 4 KPFD project funding guidelines or criteria: economic development, efficient use of public or private monies, innovation, multiple use of facilities. So first, generate, and these are your words, economic development benefits through new jobs and or by capability of drawing out county participants, families, and tournament enthusiasts to Kitsap County. So the economic study submitted identifies a $7.5 million annual benefit to the community through restaurants, hotels, stores. That's a great return on investment. It's a lasting impact year after year. Supports businesses in the shoulder season when tourism is down. And of course, not only for Bainbridge Island, but for bigger tournaments, there'll be spillover to Poulsbo and Silverdale. Competitions at the pool would draw out-of-county families, which is one of your criteria, and is estimated over 3,000 of those visits per year. Proposal identifies at least a dozen organizations in Kitsap County outside of Bainbridge, so there's a local and a regional effect. Those dozen would benefit from the new pool. 2, efficient use of public and private monies in their planning, construction, and operation. So the request was for a 35% contribution from KPFD. The remainder monies would be secured by the Park District. That includes an 8% private funding. So that, in my mind, a 35% request is efficient. The operation would be 100% by the Park District, and they have a proven track record of maintaining facilities in good condition. 3, innovative in their design and construction. Design incorporates an existing facility, so that's efficient. Skilled managers and staffers are already on board. It would be unique to Kitsap County, and there's only one other all-season pool of such a size, which is in Federal Way, so it would be a drawing factor there. Would be a major attraction for athletes in the Pacific
You're
Northwest.
at 3 minutes.
That's my 3 minutes? Oh, darn.
Thank you. Next up is Charlie King. Charlie King, supporter of the Bainbridge Island Pool.
I can't figure out how you might have figured that out. First of all, members of the Kitsap Public Facilities District, thank you so much for hosting this and coming to the island to come and hear us speak. I'm coming as a full-throated advocate for our pool. I'm a parent of teenagers who are both athletes. We've done what feels like every sport under the sun: soccer, bicycling, water polo, rowing, and a short but expensive foray into horseback riding. Now, all these sports are dramatically different, but what they all have in common is that we all have competitions. And the competitions go from lots of different places. We've been to Victoria in Canada. We've been to Idaho, been to Oregon, we've been to California. We've probably been to every sports complex in Western Washington. Now, while all these sporting events and the complexes are different, there is one thing that they all share in common, is they are a place where families spend money. When you take your family to go and participate and watch your child compete, there is exhaustion, there's excitement, and there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of time where you spend a full day waiting for your child to compete, or you watch them compete and they win, and you have to go out and buy something to celebrate, or they lose and then you have to go out and buy something to commiserate. But there is always the opportunity to buy something. Coffee shop sales go up, supermarkets, restaurants, Occasionally, you'll be in a cute little town where somebody might want to go shopping. I had the opportunity to speak with one of the local coffee shop owners who shared with me, she said, you know, when we know that there's a sporting event that's going on the island around the high school, we have to staff up because we can't keep up with the demand. We absolutely can't keep up with the demand. I know personally that when we go somewhere and it's just an event that's around the participation, like it's a Western Washington, we're there for the game, the meet, the thing, I guarantee you within 10 linear miles, we're going to be spending at least $30 to $50. If we have to stay overnight, it's 4 times that. The positive economic benefit to this community and the surrounding communities by having such an innovative and expansive pool that is the second only in Western Washington that can host such competition-level events would be groundbreaking for Kitsap County, be a huge positive impact across the board, both in jobs, economic impact, positive influence, and I know that I don't have to speak to you about the positive influence that sports and activities have on kids, getting them away from screens, getting them out and making friends, getting them out and participating in their community. Thank you guys so much for your time today.
Charlie, thank you. Next up, we have Alwyn Chicanoto, supporter of Bainbridge Island Pool. Welcome.
I'm a businessman, and my name is Alwyn Chikamoto, and I recently purchased 2 years ago the formerly the Best Western on High School Road. And I've been doing business in Washington State for over 30 or 40 years, and I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii. My background is banking, so I used to be a banker in a big bank in Honolulu. So I've been doing business out here for many years. And one of the things that made me think twice about buying a hotel in Bainbridge Island is the seasonality of the market here. You make good money in the summer, but you die in the shoulders. So for everybody here, I mean, I talk to small business, and I'm part of the BBC, which is a group of people who meet every Friday. And I've heard every time, we have to find a solution to get people to spend money when we're having a hard time in the winter and the shorter seasons. So when I heard about this proposal to enlarge the facility and what the gentleman before me said, I believe it will encourage a lot of people to come here for the events and everything, and that money will multiply from our hotel to the businesses, to the community, to the artists, and everybody, because we're all looking to even out the season so we don't have to starve in the winter. And that's been a problem here. And by doing so, our standard of living goes higher. But one thing that's very important is that not only in economic terms, but many of us are baby boomers. And we need to have exercise, aerobics, and not impactful stuff that stress our body. But the pool is something that's going to be really well used by our senior citizens. And also, I'm coming from Hawaii. There's so much water. When I was a young boy, I was drown-proof in kindergarten. But that saved my life when I was surfing in Hawaii. I could have died. The ferry boat, everybody rides it. What if one sank? Bainbridge guys would survive because you got to, I mean, you got to do all the swimming. We would save everyone in that boat. So I believe there's more benefits than just the economics. It's health and welfare. We're all getting older, and swimming has been proven to lower all your stress levels and keep you in shape. So I strongly recommend this consideration favorably for the island.
Thank you, Alan. Next up is Jane Lindley, supporter of Bainbridge Island Pool.
Hi, my name is Jane Lindley, and I have lived on Bainbridge for 25 years. I'm here in support of the replacement pool project. I believe that a state-of-the-art aquatic center will be a great investment for Kitsap County and Bainbridge Island. It will benefit our community in many ways. It'll serve all age groups. I mean, it's one of the only sports where the youngest members of our community and the eldest can all participate. It will provide jobs, and it will bring tourist dollars. I've seen this firsthand as a competitive swimmer. This April, I traveled to Mesa, Arizona, and I was there for a 4-day event. We spent $500 at least in 4 days. Now, there were 2,000 swimmers at this event. If they spend at least $500. That's $100,000 in that community over 4 days. That's huge. Swimmers spend money. You know, first of all, we're hungry all the time. And so we'll go out to restaurants and coffee shops and grocery stores. And we love going places. I mean, swimming is an excuse to go places and try out new communities. And we love merchandise. So we're your perfect people. In these ways and many more, a state-of-the-art aquatic center will be a community asset and will have a positive economic impact on our community. Please consider ranking the replacement pool project number 1. Thank you.
Mark, welcome back.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say a few words on behalf of the Park District. Obviously, we saw the rankings and we wish we were higher. It's on there, but we are still fully on board with partnering with the KPFD in the future and moving forward here. As you've already heard right now, and I'm sure we'll continue to hear, the ongoing benefits for this project. But on page 3, I brought a few of the slides from our presentation that I feel like are highlighted, and some of them have been touched on, but page 3 begins with the benefit to the public. There's obviously a list of the local and also regional. I wanted to repoint that out. And this is a year-round facility. This is an indoor, not an outdoor facility, and it's running year-round. And right now, as you've already heard, it's at capacity and running that way. And we would like to continue that with whatever option is built going forward in the future. The existing demand, some of our figures that we have pointed out there in one of our slides, there is demand that's already in place right now. Our swimmers, and I'm sure you'll hear later on here, are practicing beginning at 5 a.m. and going all the way until almost 10 o'clock p.m. There's an existing demand that's currently in place. So there's no need to recreate that or look for that after this facility is built. And obviously there's some projected numbers for future offerings. Facility, currently our last go around, we had just under 500,000 visits to the facility alone just for swimming. So I think there's some staggering figures. In addition, we also had completed a feasibility economic impact study. Those numbers have been generated there, looking at the first year being at just under $3.5 million, and then going forward in the second year at $7.4 million of economic impact that would go to the region here. So kind of going forward, to keep my comments short here to let everybody else speak, I would highly encourage you guys to continue to partner with us, especially for our next phase in our proposal. Our initial request was for $14 million, but we also were looking for an initial funding of $500,000 to complete the second phase of our studies. So that's what I'd like to offer.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
Next up is Paul Bang-Knudsen, a veteran.
Hey guys, I grew up here and I was a lifeguard first and then a water safety instructor. Competitive swimmer, started the water polo team with the first team ever here, swam with the BAM, and we've traveled all over the county and we've got friends all over the county. My good swimming and upbringing here got me into the Special Forces, where I served in Iraq and came home banged up, and just like the other gentleman said, people use this for therapy too, So I just want you guys to know how important it is as a county-wide thing. I know a little bit about driving, and I was probably one of the only ones in the room that has been to a Secret Service driving clinic, and well, you can do that kind of training at a racetrack, sure, but you also can do it on bases. You can do it, close down. Those agencies can do that kind of stuff elsewhere. You know, we don't need a specific facility for that. My time's running out, but I got one more point, is that, you know, I know a little bit about STEM. You know, this is, you know, STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. It's not a building, it's not a facility. It's an idea, it's math. We love that stuff here too. You can say just as much about, you know, using the net system, that we have an international net manufacturer that floats their nets in our pool for business and economic development. The first net was floated while I was a lifeguard here. So, you know, it's an international Japanese company that's on the island, and, you know, the hotels, you know, there's tons of, you know, jobs for people. And we've got a lot of veterans in the community here. We've got people in every service branch, and Kitsap County, you know, is a big military area, and there's a lot of veterans, and I believe that that's an important point to think about. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your comments. Thank you for your service. Next up is Ken DeWitt, representing Bainbridge Island Metro Parks. Welcome.
Thank you for meeting here this evening. I'm a commissioner with the Bainbridge Island Metropolitan Park District. I have been for several years, lived on the island for over 40 years, and my whole family has used the pools. I'm going to take a little different tactic than what you're hearing so far, because as one of the commissioners, I'm responsible for finances in that, in that pool. We have a pool at, Ray Williamson Pool is 52 years old, and it is literally falling apart. We are keeping it together with Band-Aids, and there's going to be a point in time, well, we don't know when it's going to fail on us, and we're not going to, it just won't be fiscally prudent to rebuild that pool. So we are trying right now to look to the future to meet growing need, because as Mark said, we're already capacity. We're also trying to meet the needs of the community for the off season, as Alvin said, and help the business community, which also brings taxes in. But getting back to it, folks, we've got a pool that is in desperate straits right now. Mark would be more than happy to give you a tour of the facility to tell you what he's talking about. It looks great on the front, but we're sinking a lot of money trying to keep that one going. So a 50-meter pool or 52-meter pool is something that we'd like to do. We've done a lot of work in preparation for it. We still have a lot of work to do with the school district because it sits on school district property. But we think that this is the most feasible solution. If we're going to spend taxpayer money, we need to put it into something that's going to last for a long time and serve the community and the county and actually the region. So we appreciate your reconsideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Jim Stretch, supporter of Bainbridge Island Pool.
Yes. Well, first I'd like to thank you again for considering this grant potentially in support of a pool on Bainbridge Island. I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of a new pool to the community. First of all, with respect to athletics, we have organizations like the Bainbridge Island Swim Club, BAM Masters, who currently have the National United States Master Swimming Coach of the Year. To give you an idea of the value of that program, we have Water Polo Club, Dive Team, High School, where the boys have state individual and team championships. The girls are oftentimes rated, have top performances at state. And we have a current high school state diving champion. It's also important for the community in terms of teaching children and adults how to swim. It provides a training facility for Bainbridge Island Fire Department first responders, as well as for Washington State Ferry personnel. Bainbridge Island Rowing uses the facility for making sure that people know how to swim when they're out in their boats. It also serves physically and developmentally challenged community members who depend on the pool for exercise and personal fulfillment, and serves as a training facility for Arms Around Bainbridge Swimmers, a nonprofit that helps those who find themselves in health crises with limited resources to manage without help. With regards to health and well-being, we heard earlier, many Bainbridge Islanders use the lap pool to sustain their health and physical conditioning, from the very old to the very young. For example, aquatic aerobics programs, among many others, help people to sustain their shape and enjoy the camaraderie of others when they're in these activities. Now, while some of these activities are conducted in the Nakata Pool, the Ray Williamson Pool is 15 years past its life expectancy. If the pool has a catastrophic maintenance failure, the Nakata Pool will not be able to sustain the needs of all those other clubs and organizations I just mentioned. This grant could help our community continue supporting the successful programs that depend on an aquatic facility that can serve the needs of multiple users, including those seeking to maintain their health and conditioning, clubs that need pool time for training and certification activities, high school athletes who train to compete for state and Olympic events, and those who desire to learn how to swim. After all, we do live on an island. I encourage you to reconsider the ranking of this proposal and hope that it'll be number one. Thank you for this time.
Thank you. Next up, Cole Medina.
KPFD board members, thank you for being here tonight. Welcome to our council chambers. I will admit it's a little weird for me to be sitting out in the audience instead of sitting up there. Executive Director Walton, thank you for being here tonight as well. And Brian, I thank you for coming, but you live here. I think it was a short commute for you, but it's nice to see you as well. And of course, thanks to all of you for being out here tonight. I'll just put in a plug for our city council meetings. We meet every Tuesday right here in this room. You come on down. You think this is fun? Wait till you see our meetings. Any Tuesday night. I want to say I was at the last PFD meeting in Port Orchard 2 or 3 weeks ago. And at that meeting, there was a huge crowd of folks there supporting the Port Orchard project, which you might expect. And I noticed they were clapping for all the people who were getting up to speak about the Port Orchard project. And then I realized they were clapping for everybody. They clapped for people who stood up to talk about any of the projects. And I actually commented on that when I was speaking and said that I thought that was such a great, sense of welcoming. I hope we can match them tonight, because I don't think everyone's here to talk about the pool. We'll see how you guys do. But to the point. Obviously, this project would be hugely beneficial for the island. I'm not going to, and the greater community of the county. I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said. So I thought I'd focus on something that might not be apparent to you in the application materials, and that is the community support. Obviously, you're seeing some aspect of the community support for swimming here, but what you're not seeing is the rest of the island that deeply supports swimming and the swimming pool on this island. I've really been amazed at the support for the swimming facility on this island in the 18 years that I've been here. So I want you to know the community will support it. Part of this project would require something, I believe, going to the community to vote on, to get the funding for this. And I'm confident the community will approve that and support that if it comes before them. And it has my full support as well. As the mayor of Bainbridge Island, it has my full support. I meant to say at the top, before I made some jokes, a disclaimer. You guys are used to seeing me in a different role. I'm not here tonight as the CEO of the Kitsap Community Foundation. I'm not here as a representative of the Parks Foundation. Tonight, I'm here as the mayor of Bainbridge Island. So obviously, all my comments here are in support of that project, the pool project, not the other project I'm involved in. Sorry, I should have said that up front. I want you to know this has my full support, as I was saying, and I'm confident that although the city itself is not a partner in this project, that the city itself as a municipal entity will give this project its full support as well when it needs to. It just hasn't been asked to join the party yet, but I'm sure that it would if it could. I'm confident of that. So I just want to leave you with this point. If the PFD considers making an investment in this project, you can rest assured that it's an investment in a project that will get done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Jerry McDonald, speaking in support of Circuit of the Northwest.
Good evening. My name is Jerry McDonald. I would like to encourage you, Darren, and you, Rick, to reevaluate your votes. I don't think either of you understand exactly what you may do to the Circuit of Northwest project. Both of you put the Circuit of Northwest as your number 7 project. Somehow, I don't think you really understand the public side of this project. Currently, most of our law enforcement U.S. Navy and some fire departments in Kitsap County and several police and fire departments from surrounding counties use the Bremerton National Airport cross runway for their required emergency vehicle operations course, EVOC training. The Port of Bremerton will soon be closing the cross runway on the east side of the airport as they develop the east side. This means that there will be no EVOC training on the cross runway side. If the public side of the Circuit of the Northwest is eliminated, so goes the EVOC training. The closest alternative to the Circuit of the Northwest EVOC training area is the Washington State Patrol EVOC training in Shelton. The State Patrol training area is farther away, more expensive, and they have very few dates available. This will be this is a real local public need. But the EVAC training will not be the only loss. STEM education is and will be an opportunity for our children. The STEM portion of the Circuit of the Northwest will encourage and educate our children for future professions. This is an extremely important part of the public part of the Circuit of the Northwest project. Current plans with KPFD funding will equip our students with marketable regional specific skills. I don't know if you're aware of the crisis that is ahead. The qualified skilled tradesmen, plumbers, carpenters, and electricians, etc., mechanics, maritime workers, pilots, airframe and engine mechanics, just to name a few, are and will continue to be dangerously low in these skilled and qualified people. This is one of the public strengths of the Circuit of the Northwest. All 3 of our closest school districts and Olympic College strongly endorse the STEM portion of this project. Without public funding, the Circuit of the Northwest will have to eliminate this special event center, a gun range, skill center, STEM center, and hillside seating for concerts and other public events. Lady Aaron and gentlemen, you can get something done now. You have spent a year and a half reviewing and evaluating our project, spent $552,000 in feasibility studies, design, and engineering work for the Circuit of the Northwest. The Circuit of the Northwest is ready.
Your time is up. Sorry. Next up is Andy Marone.
Good evening, members of the Board of Directors. My name is Andy Marin. I live on Bainbridge Island, have for 40 years. And I want to thank you for coming to Bainbridge Island. As I understand, you're sort of going around the communities, which is great. At least 2 of you perhaps recognize me. I served on the first Public Facilities District Board in 2000 and served till 2005, and Walt and Rick served with me, and Brian was, and his partner Blair were the lawyers. And in doing that, I remember when we first started, Rick, meeting not with a crowd like this, but in the conference, the fairgrounds, with just 6 of us sitting around a meeting room with no money, no staff, no nothing. We were just beginning. And it's good to see the progress that's been made. During the succeeding 5 years, 6 years actually, that I was on the board, we voted and I supported funding for the Kitsap, essentially the Bremerton Conference Center, the Kitsap Conference Center in Bremerton. I supported the renovation of and the creation of the Kitsap Fairgrounds and Event Center, which is redoing the ball fields and the fairgrounds, the building itself. I supported the creation of the North Kitsap Event Center, which was, as you know, was redoing the entire sports complex around the high school at North Kitsap. And I did that as a member of the PFD with a couple of you and the other members, and I guess Linda's going to follow me, because those were good for the county and met the criteria for supporting that. Now I'm here as a Bainbridge Islander, and I have to tell you, I've not been involved with my friends in the pool, so I can't speak with the specificity. But I have been involved in recent years with the Bainbridge Island Parks Foundation, a nonprofit organization which is helping to improve parks and trails in the island. And when I first heard about the pool, I realized that it's got to be done with 3 funding sources: county, somehow, some way, regionally, a bond issue from the Park District, and private fundraising. That's got to happen. And that's where the public facilities, the Parks Foundation comes in. I look around here, my friends and colleagues, and you all are going to have to help all of us raise the private part of the money for this. And if all 3 of those occur, and I'm confident that that money can be here, this facility can be built to benefit the region. Now, I ticked off Bremerton, North Kitsap, and Central Kitsap. You know, your job is not to, sprinkle it around geographically, but you ought to consider that.
Your time is up.
Yes.
I apologize.
As you go forward. And we hope you make that decision, not just geographically, but for all the reasons. And when you do that, I think this will be best. Thank you.
Welcome back, Linda.
Hi, Linda Berry Mare with the North Kitsap Trails Association and the Port Gamble Park Stewards. So here in support of the Port Gamble Trail, and it's actually nice to see some of the people that helped us raise money. Hi, Jane. But our project has been in process here for many years. Lots of volunteer support as well. Today I wanted to share something I learned about just after the last meeting. So after last week's meeting, I was invited to a statewide meeting by the Governor Inslee. Has a he has a staff member whose title is Outdoor Recreation and Economic Development. And he asked us to attend a meeting for the state of Washington together with the National Rails to Trails Conservancy. And they had, I don't know if anybody else is a member of Rails to Trails, but this last magazine that came out was talking about their new effort on a great American rail trail. And their goal is to go from Washington, D.C. to Washington State. And it is pretty darn exciting to think of putting Kitsap County and our Sound to Olympics Trail on this map. And so I just passed out this map. This is the graphic that they're proposing nationwide. They're undergoing, they're in the midst of a large fundraising effort. And the value of having our area on literally the only national rail trail, which is a paved trail that goes from one end of the country to another, is pretty remarkable. And if you look at the details on the second page I gave you, And then I was looking over here at the City Council's top priorities for 2019, and down at the bottom is the Sound to Olympics Trail, STO, complete plans. So when you look at this map, the national opportunities and our local efforts at the trail, I think it's really a unique opportunity that I had not been aware of at this level. So that will also help with future priorities of getting matching funds for things like transportation projects. I also wanted to just real briefly address the issue of outdoor recreation and Port Gamble. I don't know if we've ever mentioned this to you, but Port Gamble and the mountain bike ride park that's up there, which is used by lots of community members, has a unique kind of soil. It turns out that our glacial till that we have in North Kitsap, because the glaciers came in and out, and drives us crazy in our gardens, is ideal for outdoor recreation in the mud, so that those mountain bikers actually love our mud. We call it destination dirt when we think we're funny. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Next up is Barb Trafton. My apologies to any last names that I'm not speaking.
No, you did it right. Barb Trafton, I'm Executive Director of the Bainbridge Island Parks Foundation, and I join others in welcoming you here to the island. I just very briefly, I just wanted to say, no man is an island, and now we really understand that no island is an island. We need more than just the island to make this 50-meter pool a reality. We do need you. As Andy said, it's going to be a triple effort, and it's going to be a hard lift. But we have urgency with this pool project. I think you're looking at a number of really great projects, but if this one doesn't happen soon, we're going to close down the pool and really be in a bad place on the island. And it isn't just the island. When I had little children, I took them to swim, to go swimming, because they had a pool that was banked. You know, it was like you could walk in like a shore. We have one here now. When we were doing the levee lid lift on Bainbridge Island, I spent a fair amount of time in the pool talking to families because I thought I'd be talking to people who are going to be voting on the next election. Well, I was surprised to find that most of the parents that stuck around, so most of the parents in the pool, were not from Bainbridge Island. They were bringing children from all over Kitsap County. So this is swimming lessons. These aren't competitions. This is swimming lessons. And what we have is a program that is vast and includes people from all over Kitsap County. So I urge you to somehow partner with us, the community, and all of us, Kitsap County, to make this happen. Thank you.
Next up is Montan Kondrake. Sorry. Representing Bainbridge Island Parks Foundation.
Thank you for being here. I'm a board member of the Bainbridge Island Parks Foundation, and I'm sure you know what we do is we assist citizen groups who want to build a playground or get a trail or enlarge a park to raise private funds to do it. I'm a fairly recent arrival on Bainbridge Island, and I love it here. I'm a lap swimmer. I'm a failed competitive swimmer. I don't even qualify for masters, but I do use that pool. And I encourage you to go visit it any time of the day or night, literally from 5 a.m. till 9:30 p.m. The place is crowded. If you want to get a lap lane, you've got to be very strategic about it. It happens that at 9 o'clock in the morning, the water aerobics ladies leave the pool, and for about a half an hour, there's an empty lane there. So we need this pool for all the reasons that people have said. Now, in good weather, Bainbridge Island attracts mobs of people. Most of them come over on the ferry from Seattle and so on, and they shop, and they go to restaurants, and they go to Mora's, the best ice cream in the country. But in the wintertime, you know, the traffic is low. Now, this pool, and I'm sure you've seen the plans, is going to be first class. It's going to be the kind of place that people are going to want to have major meets, as well as, you know, local meets and county meets, but state championship meets. You can just imagine that it will happen, and our teams compete with Seattle teams, compete with other teams from Kitsap and elsewhere in the state. So there will be traffic and jobs. There'll be jobs to build the pool, for one thing. There will be jobs that are created in the hotel industry, in the restaurant industry, and it is an economic development project, and I think it merits your support. Thank you.
Next up is Joy Archer, representing BAM.
Yeah, the pool. I'm Joy Archer, and I have spent almost every day at the pool for the last decade. I'm pretty familiar with the place. And listening to the introductions that we heard here at the top of the meeting, it struck me that none of you know the island, and none of you know this community. And that's very troubling, because I have to ask, how can you understand the value of our replacement pool if you don't understand our community? I'd like to invite each of you to come by the pool, take a tour. Mark would be happy to walk you through it, and you can start to get a feel for a couple of things. You can feel the energy in that space, the passion that people have for this place. You can see the crowds, that there's really no room. You know, the arguments people are making here about the crowdedness of the pool is very real. And you can see the ray pool as it is basically crumbling around us. When we swim and we come in at the end of the lane, the tiles come off in our hands. Who has that happen to? Yeah? So I know that it can be easy for the rest of Kitsap County to look at Bainbridge Island and say, they don't need our money. But that doesn't acknowledge two very important things. One, this is not a Bainbridge Island pool. This is a Kitsap County pool, public and open to everyone, and it would draw people from the entire Pacific Northwest. Number two, a pool of this size is beyond funding even for Bainbridge Islanders. And we need your help to bring profound economic, cultural, and social impact to this county. I urge you to support funding for the Bainbridge Island replacement pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Next up is Bill Galvani, also supporting BAM.
Everybody from BAM certainly appreciates it. I swim with the swim club 4 days a week at 9 o'clock in the morning. There are usually about 30 people swimming, which works out to 4 to 5 people in each lane of 5 lanes, so that the 6th lane is free for people who are doing just regular swimming. Beyond that, I am amazed by the variety of people who are swimming, and they range from little kids in diapers in the Nakata pool to people even older than I am. All of the points that I would make in favor of the pool have already been made, and so I thank you for coming, and I urge you to support the raising of the priority of the pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Leslie Schneider. Welcome.
Hello, thank you very much for coming to Bainbridge. My name is Leslie Schneider, and I'm a council member here. And so this has kind of become my second home. I wanted to come and quickly share a little bit of how important pools and swimming have been in my own life, and really as a thread throughout my life, and the thread being the thread of community. In my 20s, I discovered Master Swim, and I just remember getting to know these old people who were swimming next to me, and just, you know, it was such a lifeline for them. They were so committed to it. In my 30s, I moved to the Northwest, and Master Swim again became kind of a link to my new life. In my almost 40s, I took my son as a toddler to swim classes, and there again was a community. And then in my 50s, I discovered scuba diving, and I spent all but the very last element of my training in a swimming pool. And it's just amazing to see how many times something like that has touched my life in so many important ways. So I really, really support this project. I agree with all of the economic development perspective that has been raised here so far, but I don't want to dive into all of those efforts again, other than to say that to have a piece of economic development that is so focused on families and athleticism and health, it's been a real eye-opener for me just to look at all the benefits that have been pulled together by this community. And I just so look forward to sharing in our efforts to make it all happen. So I really hope that you'll all be able to help us get an important first step on this in this journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leslie. Next up is Phyllis McNeese. Thanks.
Hi, I'm the president of the Bainbridge Island Swim Club Booster Board. We support the activities and the coaching staff of the swim club. And I thought I'd just take a moment to talk about the experience of our swimmers and our families, both in relation to the capacity issues that we currently have with the aging Ray pool that was talked about earlier, and also the financial opportunities with building a new 50-meter pool in the area. First, with regards to the capacity, we currently have 6 lanes in the Ray pool. And there's always a wait list. I see our coach here who can attest to that. And I think there's few other sports where children who want to participate in a healthy active activity are told that they cannot join the team or there's not space for them. Our practice groups begin early in the morning. We have a number of 10-year-olds that start swimming at 6 a.m. in the morning because there's such limited space, a time when they should still be in bed for another 2 hours. We have crowded lanes, sometimes 10 or 12 kids in a lane, which is pushing the USA swimming requirements in terms of safety. So it's not safe. There just isn't enough room. Yet despite that, we still have many high caliber swimmers. We have one swimmer that will be attending Olympic trials next year in Omaha, Nebraska. So we have still just a ton of opportunity within our club. In terms of the financial opportunity, the only 50-meter pool in the whole Seattle area is in Federal Way. I have 2 swimmers in our family, and I counted. I went to the King County Aquatic Center 10 times this year already. Many times staying for 3 nights, buying every meal there. The hotel room was over $200 a night. I mean, you think again about the opportunity. We've traveled to meets in Arizona just to be able to get into some of these swim meets. So not only are we traveling there? But there's many swim meets that we would like to attend at KCAC that we can't even get into. Our coaches are having to push sand the moment that it opens up and still being declined. So there's a massive demand for these, for a 50-meter pool from all the local Seattle area swim clubs and beyond. And we could not, the 50-meter pool, again, wouldn't only be a Bainbridge Island facility, but we could rent it out to other clubs. If Poulsbo or Bremerton or the Seattle clubs wanted to host a meet there, they could do it as well. So I really think the possibilities are endless with another pool. Even so, with our small Ray pool, we have clubs coming from Canada to attend our local meets. Starbucks tells us it's one of their busiest days of the year, and they want a heads up whenever we have a meet here so that they can have extra staff. We have clubs coming from Canada to attend. So I think that, if we had a better facility and more capacity, the possibilities are really endless for the type of financial benefit that we could bring to the area. So with that, I just ask you to reconsider ranking our pool higher on your list.
Next up is RJ Rossart. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, you're up. Okay, so I moved to Bainbridge Island when I was going into 7th grade. I had a hard time making friends. It wasn't really fun, so I tried to join Bainbridge Water Polo, and I did the rec class, which was really fun. And then I moved into the club itself. The club was really, really fun, and I've enjoyed it so much, and I felt like a lot of my friends and everything there have been made. And I'm really passionate about it, and the problem is that we're practicing from 7 to 9:30. And by the time we clean up the pool, it's about 10 o'clock by the time we get out of there, and it's kind of annoying. So that's why I think it'd be nice to have a new pool, because then we wouldn't be practicing so late.
My name is Winston Block, and I am also a member of the Bainbridge Island Water Polo team. And as people have said before us, before me, and before the people behind me, our pool is falling apart. I've pulled tiles off the side. I've paint's just scraping off sometimes, and the lane lines just barely fit in these cracks that we put them in. The pool is not big enough for a proper water polo game, and the main problem is the fact that it is only deep on one side. We are only able to play usually in all deep pools for big matches, so that kind of doesn't allow water polo matches to take place here. So we must go to Oregon, Canada, California to go play against other teams. We aren't able to get the practice that is needed for swimming in an all-deep pool. And finally, as Cole said before me, we are practicing on hours that is just kind of ludicrous. We have 6:30 to 9 practices in the morning and 7 to 9 practices at night. And we have to break down and build up the pool again, and that adds an extra 10, 15 minutes on every practice. And we're working hard, and going to bed that late is just not good for our grades. It's not good for our schoolwork, and it puts a lot of strain on us. Thank you for hearing my piece.
So I'm RJ. I live about an hour away from here, and I come this far to practice water polo because I love it so much. But besides all the financial stuff, but with not being able to host long course meets or a lot of the diving stuff, there's so many people that would want to play water polo or swim if they knew what it was like, but the hours are not manageable for them, and it just not gonna work. And if we can get more people doing that because the hours are more reasonable, then we're gonna have a higher demand for space anyway. So that new pool would meet both of those needs. Thank you.
Let the record show that the loudest and longest applause was for the three gentlemen who spoke together. We love your participation. We thank you for your courage in standing up and speaking to something that you care about. So well done to all three of you. Last on the list is Kate Carruthers, Bainbridge Aquatic Masters.
Hi, I'm Kate Carruthers, and here as a member of the Bainbridge Aquatic Masters. I'm a resident of Bainbridge Island for 37 years, and I've been swimming for about 20 years with the Bainbridge Masters. There's something about the pool that I think is really important. The only way to really understand it is to go there. There are two pools there that may sound like we have a wealth of resources here, but you would understand very quickly when you go there that those two pools are very, very distinct and they serve very unique, different purposes. Sometimes we have to put one activity in one of the other pools, but you can't do lap swimming in Nakata Pool, and you can't do the kids' swimming lessons and all those kinds of things in the Ray Pool. So it sounds like we have, oh, you've got two pools, you're only gonna lose one, that's no big deal, you've still got a pool. But we won't have a lap swimming pool when Ray fails, and it will fail. It's a miracle it hasn't failed already. It's not anybody's fault the tiles are coming off, it's just that it's an ancient pool, and everybody does their best to keep it together, but it's not gonna last, and it could fail at any minute. So I really think you can't understand Bainbridge Island by passing through it. We are a rock. Everyone thinks we've got it all together and we have a billion resources and we can do it alone, but we can't. Bainbridge Island puts his arms out through the pool and in lots of activities. I've been involved in the Performing Arts Center to Kitsap County, and we really are looking to Kitsap County to put its arms around Bainbridge because we're all part of the same community. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes our public comment portion of the meeting. I do want to say thank you to all of you who came out to voice your support and who put your name on the list. It's fantastic. We do value what you say, and so thank you for taking the time to come and share it with us. We'll now be moving on to number 4, ongoing business. The first piece of that is a report on the commissioners' meeting. I'll just say that the piece that I would add to that report is just that it was a good meeting. It was a good first meeting. It was a good time for us to share what benefits we think this poses to the county and for them to share with us as well. And so it was a good first step. If anybody else would like to chime in with any other comment, please do. No, not at this point. Any questions from any of the board members?
Well, I want to add to your comment, Darren. Like you, I thought it was a good step forward. There was no commitment on the commissioners to change their mind from the information given to Mr. Walton, which was to not be involved in the issuing of bonds. I thought we did a good job of answering the questions and showing them the value of the partnership that we've had with them. They were, I think they appreciated that. They thanked us for the information that they had not had prior to the meeting. They did say they were going to take it back to their finance committee and discuss it with them to decide whether they wanted to become involved with issuing new bonds. So while it was a good meeting, we didn't really come away with any sense that they were going to change their mind.
Just maybe for benefit of the audience who may not know what the issue is, the first 2 times the PFD has sold bonds, the county has sold the bonds on our behalf. And we would like them to do that again this next round. Using the county's credit rating, we could get a better interest rate. there'd be less restrictions than if the PFD has the capability to sell their own bonds, but we could get money at a better rate and get more money to fund projects around the county if the county sold those bonds on our behalf. So we're in the process of trying to make a case to the county commissioners that they should do as they have done twice before already and sell the bonds on our behalf so that we'll have more resources to put into these various projects.
Aaron, were you going to ask a question?
Yeah, I see that there's meeting with treasurer. There's some steps to come up with on it. Do we have any kind of a time frame?
I don't believe we do at this time. I think we're still in the process of putting that timeline together.
Okay.
Any other comment or question?
Yes, I'd like to add to that. As the person who helped convince the county to create a public facility district in the first place, I really just wanted a baseball field for a minor league team. But they said, well, no, we won't do that. But if you go county-wide and do a program for the whole county, we'll reconsider. And they did. And at that time, we were really together with the county officials. I spent a year in a study committee to get information about how badly the county would appreciate this kind of a public facility district. But what happened to the county in the last 10 or 15 years, I don't know just how long, they lost a lot of money with Kitsap housing project, and they're still paying out money for it. So we have to convince them that we've tried to, and they listened carefully, so that's good news. That there's no risk of a county losing money because the PFD has always paid its bills.
We just wanted to address that at our meeting just so the other board members could get an understanding of what happened. So if you have any other questions, please ask. Otherwise, we'll move on to number 4B, bonding information. We have our financial advisor here tonight, Alan Dashin. Alan, the floor is yours.
Good evening, and thank you very much. You have in front of you a handout looks like this, and we have on a screen a much prettier version of it. But I want to give you sort of the big picture of borrowing capability of the PFD, what you can borrow under varying circumstances. And one of the issues that we will address is what if the county steps in, what if the county does not step in. So I'm going to bounce back and forth here as I press these buttons. But if you look at the first page of your handout, it looks like this. What we assumed is, what if sales and use tax, and keep in mind that all your money comes from sales and use tax rebate. And except for paying a very small amount of money for overhead of the PFD, all that money is available to pay for projects. We assumed in this case 3% growth rate, and if you could borrow money against every single penny of that, how much money would 3% growth rate pay between now and 2041 when you run out of cash? And the number is roughly $30,500,000. This is based on today's interest rates plus about 0.5%. And keep in mind, today's interest rates are very, very, very low. We've been saying for years they're going to go up. They haven't, but one of these days they're going to go up. So we base this on plus 0.5%. If you look down at the bottom of this graph, you see the outstanding bonds, which is the blue section. In reality, to finance additional projects, we'll need to refinance that blue section. That's the 2011 bonds of the PFD. And the reason is we need to get more room for interest payments on the other bonds, kind of technical. If you decide you can issue bonds next year, we'd need to refinance whatever we do with taxable debt, unfortunately. The bonds are callable in 2021. then they could be tax exempt. It's a detail in life. I would not let that drive your decision. It's a little bit more cost to you, but interest rates can move much more than that in a year. So I think your decision will be based on other things when people actually need the money. So keep in mind the $30 million number, that's everything works. You could allocate that to as many projects as you want to. Now, getting more realistic, how much money could the PFD actually issue if it's going to issue debt? And in this case, we have to maintain some kind of cushion, which we call debt service cover. And if the PFD is on its own, the only source of payment you have is sales tax, sales and use tax rebate. And for the last few years, it's been growing at phenomenal rates. I think last year it was 13%, then before that, 6%, 9%, very fast growth rates, which sounds great. In the recession, in 1 year in recession, 2009, it went down by 10%. So if somebody's going to invest in your bonds, they're going to look at a downside scenario as much as the upside. So in this case, we assume what I would call conservative long-term 2% growth rate. You get a BBB rating, which you might get better than that, but we're trying to be a little conservative here. You could borrow $15 million, plus or minus change. That'd be issuing bonds today. You could pay for $50 million of projects, and you still have quite a bit left over because you could still pay for 15 million other projects, but it's allocated out after you pay these. So these are paid first. You could allocate that to Bainbridge Island. Some of the money contingent upon it being available. If it's not available, they don't get the money, and they have to understand that. So that's scenario one. We then said, let's look at a different scenario. What if we assume no growth rate? Which we've done for several PFDs, and get an A rating, which is a better rating, $10 million. So you're better off assuming a bit of a higher growth rate, risking a slightly higher interest rate, but you get more money. And we won't really know what your rating will be. We won't really know what the interest rate will be until we get there. These are assumptions based on history with other PFDs, but can certainly change with time. So keep these numbers in mind, and the next two numbers we talk about are what if the county steps in. So scenario A, the best scenario you have, scenario one is you could borrow $15 million, $14.6 million. What if the county stepped in today and we assumed about 0.5% interest rate lower, plus or minus change, AA county, and you have to provide the county with some comfort. We said, let's assume a 2% growth rate and have a cover of 1.25. So for every dollar that they lend you, guarantee, you have 125% of that available. So you have to have a pretty big downturn for not to have money every year. You'd also have to have a reserve account, and we talked to the county, you said you'd put one up. In this case, you could borrow $20 million, so $5 million more. We then looked at a different scenario. We said, what if we assume a 3% growth rate, and the county says, well, we want a higher coverage, 1.4 cover, $20 million, so not much difference. So in my mind, what I would think about, do it yourself, $15 million.
We may be one slide behind, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. Do it yourself. You're looking at $15 million, and I think that's a little conservative. With the county, you're looking at $20 million, and I'd say that's probably a little conservative also, given current conditions. So it's certainly an advantage to get the county to help you with it. You get lower interest rates, you have more money available to buy bonds right now, and also have more money available to dish out contingent upon making your coverage. So it's well worth continuing those discussions. The county will want some type of cover like this. They may have other conditions as well if they decide to proceed. And we'd welcome the opportunity to go with you and talk to the county. So in summary, when you're listening to people like Bainbridge here, you don't have nearly enough money to fund all the projects being asked. You have money to finance some money where the PFD actually issues the debt itself. And then you have more money which you could allocate out contingent upon paying your debt service first. For example, I said you could roughly finance $30 million, all things being equal. You could finance $15 million by yourself, allocate enough money out to other people for $15 million. So they might get 1% of the excess tax revenue, something like that. So that's the status, and what we want to do tonight was just give you this big picture of not $70 million, not $50 million, but $30 million level, and maybe 15 by yourself. So, questions at this point?
Yeah, Alan, I appreciate the way that you laid this out with different assumptions. So thank you for how you did this work. I want to ask the question on the first page with the $30 million scenario. What numbers on this page add up to 30 million?
Oops, let me put it back up here. Oh, it disappeared. Anyway, what you do is you look at the red line going up. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. It won't go back there. Anyway, you look at the growth. There we go.
One more, scenario max is what it's called.
Yeah, go back one more. If you look at the red line growing up and present value that, based on current interest rates, that's to get to the $30 million. So it's a present value of that number.
So if you took the total of the sales tax rebate revenue from that first column with a growth rate of 3%, what would the total of that column be? Do you have that number?
I do not have that number. I apologize. We can give that number to you, though.
Okay.
In fact, I could probably do it here on my computer if I had a couple minutes.
And so if we were to enter into agreements with individual entities and arrange for payments at certain years, but we're not borrowing the money, we could, in fact, have the total of that column. Is that correct? With an assumption that you have 3% growth.
Absolutely, yes.
And so the 30 million column is a present value of what that number is. Is
Correct.
that a fair statement?
Correct. And when I finish here, I will calculate that number and I'll give it to Mike to pass on to you.
Thank you.
I think we'd have that much money, less whatever it takes to service our existing debt.
Correct.
And I'm a little lost about the idea of individual entities. Again, will you cover that? What makes up individual entities?
I'm sorry.
This scenario talks about individual entities. Will you cover that again so I understand better?
Oh, what this means?
Yes.
This assumes that each individual entity would finance their own project.
So each project.
They'd finance each project on their own.
Okay.
So you're not guaranteeing anything. You just say, we're going to allocate you some percentage of this, and if it's more than 3%, you're in good shape. If it's less than 3%, you're not in good shape. So there's no risk involved with this. Everything is perfect as far as you're concerned. They take all the risk. All the other ones, we built in a cushion for the amount of money that you would finance yourself.
Any other questions? All right, Alan, thank you for this. We appreciate it. If you have it on a spreadsheet and you can just give us a total quickly, I'd appreciate just hearing it right away.
I think I can do that. And at least I give you a close number.
Yeah.
And we will continue to refine this for you and for the county as we move ahead.
And as Walt was saying too, minus the debt service. So if you could give us a total of that column, and then the total of the current debt column, which I think would factor in that debt service. Is that correct, Walt?
Yes. That's my goal.
Thank you. All right, Brian, 4C, Bond Counsel Professional Services Agreement. Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So at the early July meeting, you selected the firm of Foster Pepper to provide bond counsel services to the PFD in this process. I've gone ahead and put together a legal services agreement, but I've come across two issues that I wanted to brief you on tonight, maybe get some direction or give you a recommendation on how I'd like to proceed. One issue is the rates. Foster Pepper proposed kind of a percentage of the amount of bonds that the PFD created. Since the PFD is now looking at alternatives to having someone else do the bonds, that structure doesn't really work. Foster Pepper did include kind of a backup plan of some discounted rates. What I would like to do and get guidance from you on is presumably go forward on the discounted hourly rates, but I'd like to negotiate a cap with them so that somehow the hourly rates will not exceed the number that we might have otherwise paid if we had done bonds ourselves. So I'd like leave to do that and report back to you at the next meeting. The second issue is conflicts of interest. Initially, Foster Pepper had no conflicts of interest, but in looking at their experience, their recent experience in communities they've served, they've recently served as bond counsel to the city of Paulsbo, and they've recently served as special counsel to the city of Port Orchard. If part of the funding strategy now is to suggest to the partners that they do the bonds with revenue support from the PFD, then it's possible Foster Pepper runs into a conflict with Paulsbo, who's number 2 on the list, or Port Orchard, who's number 1 on the list. So I have asked Foster Pepper to address that, and I don't have an answer yet, and I hope I would have that at the next meeting. So if they can't get a conflict waiver from Paulsbo and Port Orchard, then we may have to move on and take the other firm, which was also an excellent firm. So I will come back to you the next meeting with further information, and I'll take any questions you might have now.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions?
Thanks.
Let's move on to 5A, and Brian, have you come back up and speak to review and discussion of the ILAs.
Thank you. So at the last meeting, which was held in the County Commissioners Chambers in Port Orchard, you, the board, directed Mike and I to start the process of developing ILAs or interlocal agreements for the top 3 projects, the Port Orchard, the City of Paulsbo, and the Kitsap County Heritage Park. So I have started that process, and just thinking, strategically and in terms of goals, there's things we try and accomplish in these agreements. And other than Rick, most of you may not have been on the board a decade ago when we last did ILAs or interlocal agreements. But so quick background, the PFD can either fund its own projects, which this PFD is unique in not doing, or it can give money to other public agencies. And when it gives money to other public agencies, it has to do something, go through a process called an interlocal agreement, and there's a statute in the RCWs that covers that. We have certain objectives in developing those. First, in what I've given you tonight is a draft, and it's, you're not expected to get in the weeds in that at all, but we break it into pieces. And the first piece, which I've put down there, is the recitals. And in the recitals, we basically state what this is about and what our legal authorities are to enter into this agreement. And that's pretty standard in all ILAs. And it's important for us because when the state auditor comes and says, what are you doing with your money, PFD, they start looking at your contracts and your agreements. And so right off the bat, we need to have information that tells them this most money spent on a regional center, it was done under these authorities and so on. So that's what the recital component is. We'll start out putting some information in the recitals, and then our partners will say, well, wait, we want this. This is what we have to do for our side of the ILA. So that process of the recitals will grow a little bit. The next part of the ILA, and I'm on page 2 of the draft, is the commitments, and that's really the meat, where the partner says, here's what we're going to do. And I envision that there's going to be schedules. There's going to be a list of exactly what they're going to do and how the money's going to be spent and where their other money's coming from and how this all fits together. And then there's our commitment, which is pretty much funding, writing a check, but what some of our expectations are. So again, there'll be some negotiations on the details of that, but again, we have a basic structure that we want to follow in these agreements. Those include, contract administration. We'll want to see how they're going to administer the money, reporting obligations, timing. Sometimes we get into ownership of work product. If a bunch of plans are created, who owns them? It's not likely we would want to end up owning them if there was a default, but it's at least an issue we have to talk through. And then kind of the last issue I've put in there under all these commitments at section 2.3.5 on the top of page 3 is recognition. So this money goes to what we call regional centers. And so it's always been the practice of the PFD to ask the partner to somehow incorporate into its name something about regional center. So the Bremerton Conference Center, actually its full name includes the term regional center. The fairgrounds, we call the fairgrounds, but in order to get money from the PFD 15 years ago, they had to modify the name. And the North Kitsap project became the North Kitsap Regional Center. So that's just a small thing, but it's important back to us that there be recognition for funding. Third part, very quickly, is just the process for payment and structure that so there's accountability for the funds that we give them. Part 4, which is on top of page 4. So with many of these projects, they seem like they're phased projects, and they may come to us in a series of times asking for money. So there may be initial request for some plans or some feasibility money or something. So we generally put in here a provision that we understand this is phased, but the fact that the PFD gives money today doesn't mean that the PFD will give money every other time that there's a request. And then the fifth part is what people would probably call boilerplate, but it's the kind of standard administration and similar provisions that go into an ILA. So I have put together a rough draft. If any of you have comments, and I obviously don't expect them from the floor tonight, but if you have comments, you can get them to Mike, and Mike will get them to me. And then what Mike and I are going to start to do is take this and start filling in the names. So, right now, name of entity or XXX or something, but we'll start refining this a little bit and customizing these for the 3 projects you've identified. So, questions or comments so far?
At what point do you start working with the attorney for the special project, City of Paulsbo or City of Port Orchard or whatever?
Very soon. We're already kind of lining up contact names. I've reached out to my counterpart in the county, Jacqueline Aufderheide. She's on vacation right now, but she's aware that when she comes back, we need to talk. Mike has gotten me the contact information for Port Orchard. and maybe Paulsbo too. I haven't, yeah. So,
Thank you.
So we're moving forward on that process. And we want them to understand they'll have their requirements, what they want in here, but this is really our agreement. And so it's less about us adapting to their forms than it is them adapting to our forms. Because another thing, we want some uniformity. We don't want a bunch of different looking contracts, and we don't want community A complaining that community B got a better contract or something. So we'll try for some uniformity.
Kip, I'm a little concerned with the scope of service that we're going to get. We've been asked for money for studies,
right?
And it ranges from 300,000 to 750,000, and we don't have any idea what those studies are going to do. We don't know who's going to do them.
Right.
It just seems to me, and I don't know if that's part of what you negotiate with the cities, but it seems to me we need to have some kind of opportunity to look and see what we're going to get for that money.
Bill, good point. I'm sorry I didn't cover that sooner. I'm not negotiating a dollar. That's your decision. I'm negotiating a template, an agreement that will have blanks in it. We'll be communicating with you regularly at every meeting, saying, here's their refined ask.
Well, the problem is that you got a place in here for money.
Yeah, it's blank.
And they're going to give you a number. It's good. I guarantee you they'll give you a number they want in there without us having an opportunity to see what that's going to buy.
No, I won't put a number in until you guys know what that number is.
And what it's for.
And what it's for. So they're going to have to prepare a breakdown of what the money is for.
Okay.
It's not just we want $350,000 for a feasibility analysis. Thank you very much. No, there'll have to be a schedule of why it's that amount. Have they gotten bids for it and so on. So this will be an iterative process.
Okay. Brian, another question. What's a reasonable expectation of when some of these ILAs might be done so that we can move forward with these partners?
Things always take longer than you think, but summer is also ending, so there's kind of fewer gaps of getting on somebody's schedule. All of these potential partners are highly motivated, so my calendar is in good shape. So maybe a rational time is 45 to 60 days.
Okay.
And that's again with constant coming to you and getting some feedback.
I think it could be anywhere from 4 weeks to 4 months.
How long did the last ILA take? Do we know? Remember?
The one with the Port of Bremerton, from the time that kind of the attorneys put it together till it was signed, was about 3 months. But that was really the delays at the Port of Bremerton side of meeting and signing things. Going back 15 years, back to the original ones with the county and Bremerton on the conference center, those took several months.
3 months.
Okay.
Any other questions for Brian?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brian. 5B, discussion on number of projects to fund. I put this on here just because we said that this would be the third step. We've completed step 1 and step 2, and this is step 3. But as we meet here tonight and we have various dollar values that we've been given depending on different contingencies and whether we can partner with the county or whether we can't, we're also waiting on ILAs to see if we can move forward with those projects. It seems that this is a little bit maybe ahead of where we need to be talking about it. So I do want to just invite you, if you have any comments on it, please, those are my thoughts, but I also want to keep us moving forward on this.
I agree.
So do I.
All right. We'll move on then to number 6, announcements, upcoming events. We thank you again, Bainbridge Island, for being our host and letting us use your facilities. Our next meeting will be in Paulsbo at their City Hall Council Chambers. And at this point in time, we will move to executive session. The board is going into executive session as authorized by RCW 42.30.110, 1G, to evaluate the performance of a public employee. The executive session will end at, right now it is 7:13, so we will end at 7:30 p.m.
Let's do that.